Hi everyone, welcome back to Misinformation in Science and Society. Here to listen, not to judge. I'm your host Annie, and today with us we have Andy Hoffman, who is a professor at the University of Michigan's Business School as well as School of Environment and Sustainability.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
Yeah, to start, could you please introduce yourself a little bit and what do you do?
My name is Andy Hoffman. I'm a professor at the University of Michigan. I have joint appointments in the Business School and the School for Environment and Sustainability.
Mm-hmm. So why did you choose this career initially?
Uh, that's a great question. It kind of chose me.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really set out to become a professor, but events conspired to have me land here. And in the end, the role of professor, teaching students, doing research, trying to affect change from this platform is one suited to me. So
Mhm.
I've ended up in the right place.
Yeah, that's good. So what's your favorite part of doing what you do now? Like you just listed a bunch.
It's it really is watching students grow, watching them uh, gain in confidence, branch out on their own. It's really exciting when a student starts to teach you, and or when students come back after years and say they remembered something in one of my classes.
Hmm.
That's tremendously gratifying. It makes you feel like you've left a mark on the world.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so why do you think truth is like so important and why do you think misinformation is such a big issue right now?
Well, I mean, truth is so important because if we don't start with the same baseline of facts, how can we solve any problem in the world?
Mm.
Climate change is a serious problem, one we have to address. But when you have people who doubt that it even exists or question that man is doing this, how can you actually start on the same place to affect solutions? And so I think it was there was a report from the Rand Corporation called Truth Decay, which I really like, and it comes with four conclusions. We're debating facts, we're blurring opinion in fact, we are distrusting previously trusted source of information, and we've never seen anything like this. And the report concludes that this is the existential crisis of our time. Because again, if you don't have common facts, you don't have the same baseline to solve our problems. And so that's the real challenge before us is to come up with um, a better way of engaging each other on these challenging issues. And misinformation has become so widespread now for numerous reasons, not least of which is social media.
Mhm.
Any idea can gain traction, and the general consumer doesn't know how to often separate what is credible information, what is dubious information, and what's a flat out lie.
Yeah.
And so I think one thing we have to do in higher education is to teach students how to be more discerning consumers of information.
Hmm. Yeah. I know you talked about like people not believing climate change is a problem, and is there like more misinformation in your like field, and like if so, how do people like try to avoid or tackle it?
Well, I think that misinformation really starts to come in when there's an issue that's contested, where especially if that issue challenges or threatens powerful economic and political interests,
Hmm.
then divides start to happen. I mean, and the extent to which we're so divided right now in this country, where even something like COVID becomes a partisan issue, uh, it falls into the culture wars. We are so culturally divided with distrust flying all around. And so when issues land in that space, then they become subjects of misinformation and disinformation. They're being different. There's just information out there that's just wrong and people get confused. And there's information out there, disinformation, that's deliberately put there to confuse the debate. I think we're getting more and more data and analysis on the extent to which the fossil fuel sector has confused the debate over climate change because it threatens their business model. and uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so that played into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what do you think the worst type of misinformation is?
Well, in a complex topic, it's natural for people to be confused and trying to figure things out. And especially when scientists are still trying to figure it out. Think about COVID in its early years. Scientists were trying to react in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was going to be naturally misinformation, and that's part of the process. Disinformation, however, deliberate attempts to confuse the debate, whether it's the rise of pseudoscientific journals, which are a total scam. I mean, I can pay a fee and publish in these journals
Mm-hmm.
as long as I pay the fee. And so there's a lot of stuff out there that's got a political purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it, there are also external influences that are using social media to disrupt conversation in this country. The reports that have come out about Russian trolls disturbing the Women's March, sowing seeds of dissent. Certainly, social media has opened a door into the discourse in this country that parties that don't have our best interests in mind are exploiting to their agenda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in general, do you think there is like a best way to eliminate or avoid or reduce misinformation? So,
I think we're still trying to figure that out.
mhm,
Certainly educating people. I mean, every generation, I think every generation looks at the generation that follows and says, you're doomed. I mean, my generation was supposed to be all addicted to drugs and sex crazed, and generations have their challenges. Viktor Frankl, a psychologist who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, says every generation has its existential crisis. And I think your generation is facing this crisis, but I see changes. I see, you in your generation, you've probably seen this in conversation with friends. Someone will say something and it's followed right away with, where did you get that? Is that a reliable source? And so you look at the source as well as the message, and that gives you a sense of the veracity. And I think that people are learning to be at least a little more circumspect. You see something on Twitter, you repeat it, and someone says, I'd like to know where you got that. And it's embarrassing when you say, well, I heard it on Twitter. Well, what was the source? Well, I don't know. Well, are you just part of the process of spreading disinformation? So I see seeds of the shifting discourse,
mhm,
the shifting approach to misinformation, disinformation, and I think also, you look at social media, you look at articles, and then you have the comments section, and the potential for that of the global commons is fantastic, of people engaging each other. But then what do you do about people who use that, trolls who use that to push an agenda? Some platforms have just taken away the comment section. That disappoints me. I think that's just sort of giving up.
mhm,
Others have moderated discussions. Your comments will only get in if it clears a hurdle for being polite and constructive. The New York Times, they have you can click one button, here's all the comments. Click a second button, here's the readers' votes for the best comments, because you can click on them and say, I like this. And
mhm,
then their editors will sort them. And I like that model because I will go through that. And very often I'll learn as much, if not more, from the comments than I do from the article itself. There's the potential of social media. And so in many ways, what was the expression someone used, that social media, at least in its early years, was like giving a 5-year-old a gun? I mean, we had no idea what we were stepping into, and I think we're slowly starting to figure it out and make adjustments.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, so that's actually all my questions about misinformation. So just for fun, do you have a role model, like either professionally or just in general?
In with regards to what?
Um, like just like a role model that uh, like
I mean, I have role models in my personal life. I have role
mm,
models in science communication, role
yeah,
models of being a professor. I mean, you choose role models in multiple domains of your life.
yeah, 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 any of those would.
Oh, okay. Well, science communication.
Mhm,
Catherine Hayhoe, who is a a climate scientist and an evangelical, and just a wonderful communicator. She's trying to reach across the political divide on climate change. And
Mm,
it's admirable because she's been subject to some pretty vicious attacks, verbal attacks, not physical attacks. And she still smiles. She's still out there doing it. I mean, she's a role model. I mean, you get these kinds of attacks and you want to attack back, and I don't think that works. I think that there's an expression, never mud wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, but the pig likes it. I mean, when
mm,
trolls attack you, are they really in it for an engagement, or are they just there to try and bring you down? And she's a real role model. Bob Inglis, he was a U.S. congressman who got voted out of office, a conservative who got voted out of office because he said climate change was real.
mm.
And now he's made it his mission to try and get his peers, to say, climate change is real. We need to do something about it. So,
Yeah.
and then in the academic world, I have professors that I look to and try and model those who want to make a difference in the real world, those who are not so hung up on ego, who choose friends because they like them, not just because they're highfalutin other
Mm,
academics. And so it's always good to find people who are modeling the behavior that you admire and would like to model in your own life. It gives you sort of the courage and the energy to say, yeah, I can do this, and I will. To try and always model yourself against you know the most incredible people. I mean, Mother Teresa, extraordinary human being. Will I ever be Mother Teresa? I don't think so. There are little bits about what she does, but
mhm.
we all have to recognize where we are in the world and the sphere of influence that we have.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people, especially teens? It can be about like information or just like in general.
Well, look deeply at the issues before us. You have to take a strong role in educating yourself, whether it's through your classes or outside the classrooms. Try not to be a conduit for spreading misinformation. Check your facts before you repeat it.
Hmm.
Um, don't get zealous when someone says something and it's not quite right. Learn how to engage them in conversation. I think we're losing that skill. I think we live in a time now where people believe that for me to be right, you have to be wrong. And that's just not the case. That we're all trying to figure this out together.
Hmm.
And engagement, constructive, polite, courteous engagement is
Yeah.
the way we need to go forward, and not screaming and yelling at each other, which seems to be so much of the discourse we see in social media, on TV, and it's just not the way. You know, no one likes to be yelled at, and they will get their back up and dig their heels in if they feel like they're being personally attacked. But
Mhm.
if they feel that someone respects them and understands them, they're more likely to engage and allow people to change their mind. I mean, in this day and age, people who change their mind are called flip-floppers or hypocrites, or everyone's trying to play gotcha. Oh, you believe climate change is real, but you drove a car. This kind of silly distractions, which
Mhm.
take us away from the issues that we're trying to focus on. So zealotry is cynicism is another thing to avoid. I mean, we live in such cynical times, and that's easy. It's lazy. And just say,
Mhm.
oh, people aren't altruistic, that everyone's out for themselves. Well, actually, no, that's not true. People are community minded and they do care about each other. I do believe that, for the most part, not everybody, but most people are good inside. They care about their families, they care about the community, and I think a lot of the divisions that we think we have in this country, actually we don't. It's just been stirred up by a mirror that certain political interests want to use to gain political advantage. Don't buy into it.
Mhm.
That was sort of a rambling answer. I don't know if it's going to be helpful.
Oh yeah, that was really helpful. Um, so yeah, that will be it for today. Thank you so
Okay.
much for being here again. It was,
And this is really cool that you're doing this. Look at what you're doing. You're taking control of your own education. There's a wonderful quote by Mark Twain. He says, "I never let school get in the way of my education." And you have decided to do this platform. First of all, the technology that's available to you, I never had when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to reach out and learn and hopefully educate others who watch your videos. This is really cool. I think I commend you for doing this. This is really nice. And uh, you know, your classes are part of your education, but
Mm-hmm.
so are other things. I mean, the idea that online education will replace bricks and mortar, I just don't believe that's true because it's not the same, because so much happens in between classes, in clubs, co-curricular activities. Take control, organize a conference, write a paper. You have so many opportunities before you. And this is just one of them. And so good for you for not letting to take control of your education and not just make your education your classes. Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was really, really nice talking with you. I learned a lot. So, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a great rest of
Bye-bye.
your day. Bye.
Bye-bye.